Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another Nacho Tuesday. And here we are, both of us in New York City, actually, so we could probably have done this in person. But without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Mason here. He's the co-founder at Praction, and we'd love to hear or have you share with the audience what you guys do over there.
Yeah, so it's funny. We've been testing a lot of different elevator pitches and messaging, seeing what sticks. As we have all of our own pitching conversations and marketing. So I prepped one specifically for this, so we'll see what your reaction is to it. But this is our newest elevator pitch that's been resonating well with people. So the TLDR is Praction is a software and consulting services company. And we specifically are designed to help B2B software companies accelerate their path to an exit or some sort of liquidity event. So for many companies, that's getting acquired. For others, it's an IPO, merger, whatever it may be. But at the end of the day, these founders, these executives, these investors, that's their North Star. So our platform and consulting is meant to help you accomplish that. So what do? We call our platform an automated chief revenue officer, and it's specifically designed for companies that probably in the $5 to $20 million range that don't have a chief revenue officer, but they need the work that role does as it relates to the art and science behind revenue generation, building that infrastructure, the whole go-to-market motion. And then our consulting arm is really meant to be, for those larger companies that actually need a chief revenue officer. So we come in and operate in a fractional capacity as a CRO. So two sides of it, platform and services. And essentially, we develop for all of these companies, depending on what aspect of our products and services that they're using, custom strategies that really at the end of the day, increase revenue, refine your go-to-market operations, and enhance customer value. So how do we do that? We center everything around goal feasibility. So how does our platform and how does our consulting increase the likelihood of hitting your goals, which is different, right? All these other sales tech platforms, which we're not competing with, you put in a goal and it's just going to tell you how you're performing against that goal, right? Mm-hmm. So a Salesforce, a HubSpot, none of these companies are telling you, oh, you just put in a $20 million goal. Doesn't seem like you're going to hit it, right? Where's the proof that you can do this? They're just going to report out how you're doing. So our platform and our services are really meant to, hey, pump the brakes and let us tell you if this goal is feasible. If it isn't feasible, what are all of the playbooks, the operations, the accountability metrics, business performance that you need to do day in and day out to increase the likelihood of you hitting that goal? And that's our sweet spot, right? So the platform services all about goal feasibility. How do we make it more likely for you to hit your goal? And what are all those art and science type of things as it relates to revenue and go-to-market that you need to accomplish? So that's the quick, maybe, I don't know what that was, 75 seconds, a minute, kind of description.
It's a decent elevator ride, but it's very clear about what you guys do. I like how you guys kind of blend the consulting services with the automation side as well. So do you have any belief around like the trade-off between automation and then still having that human in the loop approach? With your guys and your expertise, you kind of bring in that aspect and don't entirely rely on the automation, if that makes sense.
No, totally. Look, I think, and this is something we've seen in the market more generally, is that, and this is ebbed and flowed a lot, is the market is really moving towards more tech-enabled services. Yeah. And we've seen it, over time, especially in the last 10 years with the growth at all costs and everyone buying software eating the world, that, people want it, people were buying it a lot, but they're starting to see that my tech stack's bloated. It's really hard for me to extract any value from any of these solutions. And at the end of the day, I'm super busy and I just need someone to help me. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean that there isn't a role for software. And look, this was a lesson coming out of a lot of our clients, because we were originally trying to make a full software play, because the genesis of Praction was that we were starting as that fractional chief revenue officer business, and we were very successful. Built a very robust, consulting business, going in either in sort of a shotgun approach, right? Of like, okay, y'all just need us to come in as your chief revenue officer and fix everything or help you grow, or at a very laser focused approach of like, hey, you got a specific problem with your customer journey or sales enablement or whatever it may be. So we go in very specifically. So we built a successful business doing that. And we're like, oh, there's a software play here that can really, some tools that can help automate, that help with that goal feasibility, executive accountability. So we're building towards that. And then the market was sort of telling us, and it was what we're seeing with other clients, helping software companies. We're like, people still really want a human being at the end of the day. And left to their own devices, it's really hard, especially for a premium software solution, to showcase that time to value if the user's left on their own. So what we saw with this tech-enabled services, almost in this analogy that I use, is that the platform is like the Google Maps. We're going to tell with that goal feasibility and you hitting your revenue goals, we're going to show you all these different ways. You can take a car there, you can take a plane there, a boat, bicycle. But then our consulting comes in and we're going to be the driver for you. We're going to help you execute on what the platform is dictating and showing you. And we found that that's just to be a really sweet spot and makes us stickier. And it's candidly what people want, because I think we've seen with our customers in our consulting that people are a little tired out of buying software. They're like, okay, great, another user seat and tech solution that I'm gonna have to manage. So it's like, no, let the platform actually guide you, customer, and then us as the vendor on the work that we'll execute on together, hand in hand.
Yeah, we've definitely noticed that. We're a subscription management platform. We have that as a premium feature, but people buy so much software, they don't know who's using it, how much they're spending. So, we've kind of focused on that problem ourselves. And to your point too, I've seen a lot of companies, the tech-enabled services is really a big trend. And a lot of the best founders I've actually seen over the years have been people that have had maybe an agency or a service side business. And what they realize is that if, they started building tools to kind of solve their client problems and kind of automate some stuff, and then they realize from that there's actually a huge market opportunity for it as well. So, I definitely agree. There's definitely a bigger movement towards blending the service side of the business, especially when it comes to onboarding new clients, and then having some sort of tech to help automate some of the process and, lead to some of those elusive reoccurring revenue opportunities that everybody wants.
Totally. But look, and we've discovered it's actually been one of the best ways to get product intelligence and dictate our roadmap is doing the consulting work.
You're building with the customer.
Getting our hands dirty, going in there, looking under the hood, actually doing all the tactical, like building the strategy, but then also executing on it and getting very tactical. And everything that we do in the consulting validates and brings to light what we need to build in the product, but with the lens of, okay, hey, no software is going to replace a person fully, but how can what we're building increase our impact, make that impact much, much quicker, and allow us to be at more places at once, which is the goal. And so far, we're seeing a lot of success with kind of marrying the two, but then also aligning, saying, hey, like we've just launched a pretty successful pilot program where it's like, you're going to get our software and our services together, but you're going to pick one pain point, one challenge that we're going to prove to you in those 90 days that both of these things can solve together, not isolated, not one or the other, together. And again, that's proven to just be, responds really well with these prospects of like, okay, great. I'm not just, I want the tech. Okay. Are you just another consulting person that's going to tell me what to do and not help me actually execute? So both of them together with a unified focus is just, resonated really well.
Yeah, you guys are definitely on trend. I've seen a lot of like SEO agencies that have like SEO Moz is a great example, an agency that kind of launched, the tools and everything to kind of support it. And, I interview a lot of founders, both launching like a lot of different marketing tools, like their agency would literally create this stuff and, tie that in with the consulting services that they offer as well. So definitely a lot of value there. How did you get to this point in your career? Where did everything start from?
Yeah, I mean, it's cliche to say, but I was like, I had no dreams of working in B2B SaaS. Growing up, I think if anyone did, they probably need a diagnosis of some sort. But
Mhm.
for me, I always had, a desire or passion to create something, build something from scratch and grow it. So early on, and look, that could have been selling cookies,
Yeah.
building a house, whatever it may be. But I was like, okay, that North Star, that sort of fundamental building and growing something was an itch I wanted to scratch. I also wanted, some financial liberation. So starting a career in B2B sales was definitely, a good place to start with that. And I learned with sales, because I had my preconceived notions of like salesman, the used car person, so I had some baggage going into it, but I was like,
That's
wait,
just for selling used cars. But when you're
right,
selling something of value to people, it's actually very consultative and you're actually helping people.
exactly. But everyone has those kind of stereotypes. What you think
Yeah.
you see movies in 70s, 80s of the salesman.
Don't ask the engineers what they think about us.
Well, exactly, right? Well, that's why many companies back in the day separated the two. You're on different floors.
I like engineers, but they do think different as well as we do. So
100%. You can't have a successful company,
yeah.
without each other. But what I saw was like, oh, starting a career in sales, and I wanted to join a startup, be an early employee and grow it. I was like, oh, sales, what is this teaching me? Teaching me how to pitch something, persuasion, convince someone with money that they need what I'm hawking here, and to actually give us money to do it at a pretty premium price point.
Mhm.
Those type of fundamentals, I was like, wait, this can be applied to many, many other things. And I was like, wait, this is a great place to start if I know long term I want to build, my own type of venture product company. So I started my career in the startup world, business development, jack of all trades, kind of grew my career to then, lead sales organizations. And then from there, me and my business partner, Scott, we saw that, hey, there's a big opportunity here to help companies that are, our sweet spot started in this like $5 to $20 million revenue range that, hey, they've seen a lot of success, but that success has been through grit, a lot of luck, right? Founder-led sales, but they haven't started this repeatable process. They haven't, really figured out how to build a revenue infrastructure to get them to that next level. Because what got you from 5 to 20 million is not what's going to get you to 20 to 50,
Yeah.
50 to 100, and so on. So we started a company together knowing that, hey, there's a big need for that type of company for us to come in as sort of that chief revenue officer. Because look, and as you know, Andy, the chief revenue officer role, it's high attrition.
Mhm.
They generally don't last more than 18 months. There's huge mismanagement of the role amongst executives, thinking it's some sort of magic bullet. You
Yeah.
come in, and they're just going to all of a sudden give you product market fit or bring in
Anything
all.
revenue generating, especially the marketing too. It's like, oh, you're just gonna fix everything overnight. Well, it's like first you got to start with the product. If the product's good, then you can work on how do you position the product, and then are you hitting the right customers, and then everything else kind of goes downhill after that. But it's a really long term game. It's not an overnight fix for anything.
Exactly. And look, we at the companies that we were at, we saw that people hired the chief revenue officer too prematurely,
Yeah.
thinking when you didn't have a lot of this infrastructure, you didn't have all the signals that you just mentioned in place to make that role successful. So we're like, oh, but people still need what that CRO does.
Yeah, it's like we're not selling hard enough, but it's like, well, no, you got to check a couple more boxes first before you get to that right space before you can start to scale what you have.
Exactly. So with that, we're like, oh, okay, these companies need this role, but they can't hire it full time. I mean, and this was a little bit before, we were on trend, thankfully, because now I go on LinkedIn and everyone's talking about fractional type of work. But we started this several years ago. I think, before it was in the zeitgeist, and just saw, massive success with it. But knowing, again, we came from private equity, VC backed companies, and we saw, okay, all these sort of white-haired consultants come in, they give you a PDF playbook, maybe some strategy that they've seen before work, but they weren't actually helping you execute on it.
Yeah.
So that became our sweet spot too. It's like, hey, we're going to develop the strategy with you, but then we're also going to come in and execute. And that only came to be because I grew up and led sales. My business partner has been a chief revenue officer. So, it was just a nice timing, a nice market need and something that we knew could provide value. And I was like, okay, let's build it. And then now we're launching a software product, all this stuff. So the rest is history.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people that have like that VC background and everything kind of have, I think it gives them a good perspective because they see so many companies from like the outside looking in. So they get a pretty good idea for, what works, what doesn't, because they've seen probably 10 similar types of companies, right? Or 100 even, or more. And so they could really, connect the dots where sometimes if you're in like one particular product category, or even worse, if you're just, deep into your own product, it's really hard to take a step outside and see what's not working because your perspective is so limited, frankly.
Yeah, exactly. And then look, I think a lot of, and this is no offense to, all the VCs or PE shops out there, is, a lot of them have had tremendous success, but many of them, haven't actually built a company from scratch.
Exactly. The operating experience is critical.
The operating experience. And then a lot of operators, don't have too much skin in the game, or they've been out of the game for a minute. So, we had a unique vantage point and sold a lot because it was like, hey, founder, we're in your exact shoes. We're building a company just as you're building it. Hey, we've just left revenue organizations that we built very successfully. So there was a unique element to that that made us, get brought on by VCs and other PE shops. That founders just really responded well because they're like, wait, these folks, there's a relatability. They have skin in the game. They're building something from scratch as well. They've been those operators. So and they're willing to get tactical, which a lot of people aren't. They just want to do the strategy and advisory type of work, but they don't want to roll up their sleeves and actually be held accountable to see if their strategy that they just gave you works. Right.
And you just nailed it there. I think, that operator experience, because you kind of, you learn that intuition for how things really work. And then 2, you actually see them in practice, right? And you actually get to try things. You understand stuff so much more. Like you did mention too, the operators also have, sometimes tend to have a myopic view potentially if they're working on just their product and they think of everything in terms of their product. Where maybe if they have that VC approach to kind of look to opening up their perspective more from like what outside perspectives might be able to offer, while still being in the trenches working on the product the right way, it could be better for them as well.
Yeah, they're not. The model has been historically where they're not held accountable or metriced or compensated on the plan that they just recommended actually working. We've been successful because we believe so strongly in what we do, but we're willing to prove it, right? So it's like, hey, we're going to work with you 3 to 6 months. Average is 6 months for our work. Those first couple of months are going to be the diagnostic, evaluating what you're doing and coming up with actually a thoughtful plan here. But then we're going to execute on it side by side. And you're going to see increase in revenue per employee. You're going to see go-to-market operations really refined and, bigger alignment, your customer value increasing. But that was a unique concept, just even a few years ago, where most people were like, wait, you're going to actually stay after and help us execute on this plan? We're used to people just giving us the playbook and getting the hell out of here, right? And it's like, well, there's a very specific reason for that. So that's what we've seen. And I think, the buyer, has gotten smart and is now demanding that of a lot of companies.
Yeah, you're right. Like a nice looking pitch deck doesn't really go too far if you don't know how to implement it and have the tools and processes to actually roll it out as well. Yeah. So I guess what tips would you recommend for software marketers to generate more demand for their product, today?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, and we talk a lot about this at Praction because obviously we're trying to get demand, you know, from it, and you know, there's obviously smarter marketers out there than me, but you know what I've really responded to and seen, you know, there's a lot of chatter on this on LinkedIn and how I've gotten myself educated is, you know, the tried and true concept of, you know, you have your market, 95% of that market, obviously these numbers change. Well, you know, this is a stat, but it's an ethos we live by. 95% of that market isn't trying to buy you right now, isn't even looking for you, isn't even aware that they have a problem, that they need your solution. 5% of your market is actively looking and have identified that they have a problem. And then even within that 5%, a smaller percentage is what's going to buy you, right?
Yes.
So we've done our whole demand gen program, you know, around, you know, those type of categories and buckets. So what are the things, you know, in that 95% that we can start now? It's planting the seed, knowing that we're not going to see results for 12 plus months, right? But how do we start educating, you know, these personas that we know have a problem? They don't know they have a problem yet that we can solve. And how do we start educating them? How do we, you know, do that warming? So one of the things that we do for that awareness is, you know, we're very intentional with the signals, you know, in that 95%. So we look at, okay, a bunch of different factors that qualify a company that they need to start being educated by Praction, right? We're not selling them, but they need to be educated, knowing 6, 12, 18, 24 months that they're going to come to realize that they need us. It's, okay, what's going on with the company, and a variety of kind of those phantom factors that we know stalls out growth. What are their Glassdoor reviews? How many times have they hired a chief revenue officer or heads of sales and it's not worked out?
Yep.
You know, a bunch of those type of, you know, not demographic signals of like, okay, yeah, you're a B2B SaaS company that's, you know, has $20 million, you're in a Series B, like we have all of that. But, you know, I think marketers and companies, you know, you really want to look at, you know, those non-demographic, firmographic signals of like, okay, do you need to start educating that based off of all these signals? You know that they likely have a problem, but they haven't raised their hand to it. So, you know, starting that awareness, doing that long-term education, not expecting to be getting an immediate sales result, having an opinion, right? Like we're very vocal, you know, in our awareness and education. Like we go out to companies and say, hey, you are not ready for a chief revenue officer. Let us tell you why. And we get responses. They're like, what do you mean? How do you even know that? And
well, now they trust you because your guy actually trying to help them and give them like real, like give them your straight shooter to give them the real answer. And they're like, hey, maybe we don't actually, but when we do, we know a guy we can trust. We can go to the guy. That guy knows what he's talking about.
Exactly. Right. And that's exactly happened to us. But it's all okay. That 95%, we have an opinion and we're just working on, we want you to know about these issues, educate about the problems companies like you face. And then, you know, you tell us when you're ready. Then that 5% is, you know, we really go hard on, you know, specific individuals, right? We're moving out of this company, and then we know, hey, there are specific individuals, because we're selling to people at the end of the day, as every company is, right? Like everyone wants to sell to Coca-Cola and, you know, all the big brands in the world, but at the end of the day, you got to sell to John and Susie and Patty, right?
A lot of people forget that. They just have these ICP profiles of people and they're like, oh yeah, just this person. But like, do you really understand the customer? Do you really understand what their problem is? And then if you do, you could really position accordingly.
Yeah, it's people that are buying the software, and it's the people that have the pain points and problems. So, you know, that 95%, we're really diligent about focusing on the company, educating the company to these things. Then this 5%, we have certain signals that we know, hey, okay, we know this exact individual is really ripe to have a conversation with us. So what are the things that we've done to identify? We look at, hey, were you just hired as a chief revenue officer at a B2B company? Were you the first one? First time they've ever had a chief revenue officer. Because what does that tell us about this company? 9 times out of 10, they may be the lucky 1 out of 10 where this isn't the case. But 9 times out of 10, it's like, okay, if you're a B2B SaaS company that's never had a chief revenue officer and you've just hired your first one, likely the executives and the founders have misaligned expectations out of your role. There's probably no revenue infrastructure in place for you to be successful. There is, a lot of pressure to ramp quickly and show revenue impact quickly.
Yeah.
So all of those things we know pretty well are likely the case. So we go, those are all things that Praction can help this brand new CRO at this company to be super successful and educate the founders of like, hey, you do not want to become the statistic. And what's the statistic? That most CROs don't last beyond 18 months because of all the things that we just described. So that 5% is we have a signal to go, hey, this person was just hired at this company. They're the first person in that role ever. Then we have stuff on a more negative aspect, right? Of like, this company is churned and burned through these 3 CROs, these 3 individuals. They haven't been able to maintain that type of role. Now we know there's a buying signal there that they need to have a conversation with us because they're now in this situation where the problem is front and center. So, those are examples, and I'm using this as like for marketers, and to your question, like these are all things we're going through every single day to generate demand, and what our strategy has been that's so far super fruitful. But like you said, gets out of this ICP, gets out of this, firmographic type of conversation, and it's more situation based, more people based. And what are those immediate signals that tell us, hey, there's a distress at this company and a need that we've seen from our experience. Like I said, 9 times out of 10 is true. So let us, start to swoop in a little more aggressively to see how we can help.
Any other warning signs you think, or I guess things that companies get wrong, especially in the early stages? I mean, we mentioned product market fit, is kind of a big one that a lot of people try to skip over.
Yep. Look, I mean, I think there's a lot, right? I've already hinted on it. And look, early stage can mean a lot of things, depending. Some people still consider raising $50 million in Series A is early stage versus, hey, you got 10 employees and maybe $1 million in revenue. But I think, some fundamentals, agnostic to that are, like I just mentioned, I think, there's a lot of phantom issues that people don't realize, create this death by 1,000 paper cuts scenario that actually kneecap growth and stall it out. So what are one of those things? Hiring mistakes.
Yeah.
We really focus on our messaging, but then in our pitch, and then what we work with customers on is like, you need the role, but are you hiring too early?
Mm-hmm.
Are you actually set up for success? Because nothing can be more damaging to a revenue organization than hiring a sales leader too early, hiring a chief revenue officer. Are you going to be putting what's the cliche, a Lamborghini in a parking garage, right? You don't get much use out of it unless you have the track and everything built for it to be leveraged. So, hiring not for the right role, not understanding how senior of roles that you need, hiring too much. All those are fundamentals that we often see. I think as it relates to product market fit, and look, it's something that we learned, a good way and the hard way is, if you're not having sales conversations, you don't have product market fit, right? If you are not able to get people on the phone, get them to allocate time to you for a 15, 20, 30-minute meeting and do it in a decent volume on a weekly basis, you don't have the product market fit. It doesn't matter how sexy of a product that you have, how much research that you've done, tinkering with it. And look, it's something we have to stay super disciplined on because we're so close to the issue and that
happens to a lot of founders though. Like, yeah, you're right. If you're chasing your clients for meetings and to try to sell people, something's off with either the way you position your product or your product in general.
Yeah, and look, it requires a lot of discipline because we've fallen victim to this because again, we have a consulting business, so we're so close to the problem that we're trying to solve, that we want the software to solve, that we sometimes have to pull ourselves back of constantly tinkering and going like, oh wait, this feature is going to be amazing. Oh, let's build that. Oh, the customer needs it, because we see it day in and day out. but we have to stop ourselves and go, okay, let's not make perfect the enemy of the good here.
Yep. Yeah. All that happens all the time. Yeah.
Yep. Does all of this need to actually be in the software today?
Yeah.
Right. What's the base minimum? And then pivoting from a constantly building mode to like, all right, hey, we need to stop building for a second and we need to just do nothing but focus on our go-to-market, focus on having sales conversations, because that's actually going to validate the product that we built. That's going to provide us product market fit. If we can get people to get on the phone with us, can we book calls? Then obviously, can we get them to sign? And then the proof in the pudding, can we get them to renew?
Yeah, and you shouldn't have to be twisting people's arms for it. Like,
exactly.
Are you ready to buy? Like, they should be begging to buy.
Right.
Or signing up themselves,
But I think that's what, people have to forget. And they think like, oh, I can create the most unicorn, amazing product. But then, and look, it's what allows us to also have a successful business is because people forget this, right? And they need our help for it. But they forego all those go-to-market type of activities that are really important. They build an amazing product, but then they have no distribution for it.
That, and we want to build a ton of features on a shaky foundation, right? Eventually, that thing's coming down one way or the other.
Right, and if you're not having the sales conversations, how are you validating that these 20 features that you just built people even want? And we've learned the hard way on that sometimes, because we were like, okay, we have so many consulting customers, we know what the market wants. And they're like, oh, wait, when we're leading with a software first discussion, their needs are very different than when we've led with a consulting needs prospect conversation. So that's allowed us to pivot. But I think those are lessons we learned from the hard way, and kind of finding that product market fit and getting out of that build mode. And just, you need to, I think, I saw, someone I follow on LinkedIn, another influencer or expert, they had a really good stat. They were like, if you're not having 5 to 10 sales conversations a week as an early stage company, you're not going to find product market fit, right? Because if you're having 10 conversations, you're only going to get maybe 3 of those to take a next step with you, and then 1 of those will maybe sign. So, that hit home to us, and it's how we've kind of made sure to avoid those common pitfalls.
Yeah, I've learned the hard way myself too. I've been on the operator side. I've been a founder and everything. I've had some wins and some losses. I had this marketplace a long time ago, and one of the things that we got caught up in was it was like an early stage influencer marketing platform.
Yep.
Really, designed to be like a marketplace for brands and influencers to connect and collaborate, which, came out of an agency that we had, because influencer marketing was just kind of becoming an interesting topic back then. But we got so focused on trying to build these features that we thought were cool, these like analytics tools and campaign features, that we got so distracted with that instead of just being a basic marketplace with the core basic value of just connecting brands that wanted to do business with influencers and making that as easy and transparent as possible. Like, this is an influencer for fashion and they have this many followers. Connect with them. So
go to the basics. Right. And just get out there. Now, I think I see a lot of people hawking the concept of like, oh, just get the shittiest version of your product out as soon as possible. I'm like, I don't know if that's the case either, because you don't want to turn people off.
maybe a small beta list, but friends and family to really give you the hard feedback.
Yeah. You need, everything, within reason and balance, but let people that are willing to pay you money dictate the roadmap. I think is the key there.
Yeah, that's some good lessons there. So I guess any other tips for increasing conversions for customers? Like, just like once you have product market fit, just really getting out there and really telling your story in the right way, so people really get, hey, that's the product for me. I need to sign up for this right away. Yeah,
I think we really preach both on the conversion, customer success, sales side. It's, we got to get back to basics. So people, you can look at all the things like product usage, NPS, like all of these, there's a million fancy metrics that you can use to see if people are leveraging your product. But what we often see companies, fall apart on is like, are you actually talking to your customer?
Or you're listening too, even for that matter.
Are you listening?
A lot of times they'll tell you they'll make it as obvious as possible to tell you what they want.
Yep. And absolutely, right? Are you listening? And also, are you doing what you say you're going to do for the customer, right? Which is, are you holding yourself accountable? But I think, we've been always shocked by how many sales, how many customer success, how many marketing, et cetera, organizations don't do some of these fundamentals. They have all this fancy apparatus in place, but it's like, well, when was the last time you've talked to a customer?
Yeah.
Right. And, I think, what we really do for conversion that we've seen is like, hey, let's use simple math. You're a enterprise solution or whatever it may be. Your contracts are $100,000, right? You just convince someone to spend $100,000 with you for your software product. Have you laid out for them very clearly what is the value that they're going to see in the first 30 days, first 60 days, first 90 days, and then that halfway point of an annual contract, the next 120 or the first 120 days? Have you actually laid out in your customer journey, in your time to value, what they're actually going to see, what the benefit is of it, what is the impact across each of those stages, to make sure that they feel like they're getting $100,000 worth of an experience?
Yep.
And I'm never not sure. Most people have not laid that out, right?
It's easy to sell, but it's hard to deliver,
Well, and that's what also stalls growth, right? You pump new business, but then you bleed out in the back because you're not focused on actually, delivering the value.
Yeah, if you're creating that value, people will love you for it. They'll tell other people about it, and that's how you get your net promoter score up. It's not just some fancy metric. It's something you feed into with that experience that your business provides for people.
Totally. And again, when we go into organizations and see like, hey, we got to, help enhance, this and make sure that you're getting that conversion, you're renewing that customer, you're expanding them. It's really, again, they have all this fancy stuff like automated messages and emails and notifications when you go in and click this button and run a report, but they forget the basics. It's like, okay, have you talked to this customer?
Yeah.
In the last couple of months, just hear how things are going. Yeah. What do they need help on? Are you guaranteeing and validating that your product is offering value? Just because you have a lot of usage doesn't mean that there's actual value for them to justify renewing or growing, your contract. Yep. So going in and saying, okay, hey, you just spent doing a client kickoff, doing it in person, saying, hey, you just spent $100,000 with us. Here's how we're going to make sure that we see the impact that we're going to provide in that 30, 60, 90, 120 days.
Yeah.
Validate that for us. Oh, yes. Okay, cool. You just validated that impact timeline, what that specific impact is going to be. So then if we show you that we're going to do that by that 120-day point, we'll know, you'll confirm with us that you're going to renew because we just proved and had a plan towards impact.
Yeah.
That very simple fundamentals, right? Not a ton of metrics in place, not, this crazy infrastructure to talk to the customer, validate the impact, validate the timeline that they want to see that impact, and just do it, right? But it's this back to basics, which look, it's funny to say, but it's a thing that we do with so many customers because I think people lose sight of it, right? Companies get bigger, the product gets more complicated, you end up having, 500 employees, and then you realize, all right, no one's picking up the phone. No one's flying on a plane to just go see them and validate that what you're doing is good.
Yeah, that's so true. I think a lot of people get caught up in like these high level ideas, or they read a book and they think, that's the way things work, but they don't understand how it works, right? I really respect, a lot of times, like a CEO, like Starbucks, for instance, goes out to actually work in one of the stores serving coffee to people.
Yeah,
you'll see stuff there live, like operational breakdowns, problems with your company at the ground level. If you go back to the basics, everything's simplified at the end of the day. And you'll see stuff there that you're not going to understand from some fancy report that comes in from your teams that tells you your net promoter score went down, or like your sales are dropping, but do you understand why? Like, just go work as an employee in your company at the very bottom floor in the trenches for a day, and you'll have a lot better perspective because of it.
100%. And, it's funny, like a common issue that we see with our customers, like, we engage with this company around 20 million in revenue. They're having some product issues, right? They had initial great product market fit. But they were starting to see higher churn, product usage go down. A lot of the fundamentals that you look at from a metric perspective. They built this crazy client feedback loop process system, sales inputting like that went into this matrix that then developed, what their roadmap should be, how they should address all these product issues. But then come to find that no one on the executive team ever logs into the platform. None of the executive team is going and doing a pitch and demo, right? Everything that salespeople dread sometimes. You get the rainbow wheel, or you say, "Oh, I have internet issues because something's not working." But none of them, kind of, with the Starbucks example, none of them have just sat in front of the customer and tried to use the product. None of them have went and pitched a prospect and did a live demo, which would very clearly show them directly all the issues that they need to solve.
Yep.
So instead, they build this fancy structure. They get all this client feedback. They come with, all these algorithms and metrics that, because they read a LinkedIn influencer's post on, just come to find like, hey, you're the CEO, you're the chief customer officer, you're the chief product officer. Have you tried to use this product with the customer?
Yep.
Okay, most of your questions would have been answered, and we didn't need to do all of this. So, exactly to your point, and it's just that people lose sight of it, right? That most of the issues, are actually self-inflicted, and most of the issues are pretty simple. At the end of the day, doesn't mean it's not difficult to solve, but the actual core of the issue is pretty clear.
I think you just nailed it there. I think that's where, a lot of companies really struggle. A lot of times it's just go back to the basics, like your product, love your customer.
Yes.
At the end of the day, if you put yourself in their shoes, or like put yourself in, on the front lines and actually do the pitches or actually serve a customer and understand how that experience is, heck, even be a customer for your business. Maybe the Starbucks CEO, I don't know if he did, but maybe he went through the drive-through as well. As well as being on the other side serving coffee, he actually drives through and sees what the experience is like as well too.
All aspects. And look, I think we lose sight of that client first, customer first experience. And then look, we even see in, the sales tech marketplace, people kind of run wild. Like what's trending right now is that I see constantly, and there's been a lot of issues with it, is the AI business development rep, right?
AI at all costs. We'll just automate it. Not really.
Yep. Get, these AI SDRs, you don't need humans, right? All of your leads, prospects, or whatever, this AI tool is gonna solve it. These tools are super popular. They're part of the zeitgeist, but they're heavy churn right now. And why is that? Cool, trendy concept, but we didn't actually think about the client first experience, which is
we're just adding AI to it. Just throw some AI on it,
Just throw some AI on it, but it's like at the end of the day, hey, if I'm trying to reach out to you and you're a $50,000 software product a year, I want to talk to a damn person.
Exactly. One company I really like using AI the right way is like a company, you might like them too, Hyperbound. So they use AI as like a productivity. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I'll have to look them up. That sounds familiar.
Yeah, so they do like sales training. So like they replicate like buyers and sales calls and like train, like, so you get to interact like it's a live training, like a live sales process without obviously crashing and burning and killing that $50,000 contract. So I like their approach because they're actually training people and they're using it as a productivity hack as opposed to like automating it and just trying to be cheap to just, let's throw this tool up and, it's a faster, cheaper way to do it. But at the end, the customer experience ends up sucking, right? But salespeople don't have a problem, going through these exercises and training because, it's actually making them better. It's going to help them close more deals, and they don't have to go through the embarrassment of actually, doing a live call and crashing and burning in it.
Yeah. No, look, it's amazing. I think that's the exact and these things come in cycles. I think that's what we're going to end up is everyone wants to automate, but the companies that are going to the software companies that are going to stand out the most and win in the long term and actually have the highest customer lifetime value, be really good about landing and expanding are the ones that put a people first approach and that give you the human experience, that go and like, hey, we just signed that $50,000 contract. I'm going to do our client kickoff in person. I'm going to give you that really bespoke, curated experience with our software, right? But not having all these tools that just really make for a poor customer experience.
Yeah.
So I think we're eventually going to get back to that, is that you're going to see everyone was obsessed with automation, efficiency, but it's like, those are going to be the companies with the higher churn.
Yeah.
Because they're not actually focused on the fundamentals, the basics of like, someone just spent $50,000 with your company. Yeah. Are they getting a $50,000 experience? Likely not.
It's just going to be a pushback on it too, because AI is great if it's used the right way, but it's not a replacement. And that's the common theme. It's an enhancement, a productivity tool. But if you're seeking to replace stuff, you already have the wrong strategy, right?
Exactly. But all these companies, which is where we step in a lot of times, is that they make a lot of knee-jerk reactions. Yep. So obviously the VC crisis of a couple years.
Yeah, it's the buzzword. Everybody find an AI product to invest in.
Let's find an AI product. Oh, we're a growth at all cost company, so now we have to cut everything because we're not going to be able to raise again because our valuations are insane and we were never profitable. So let's cut everything and then put AI tools in place to replace. Oh wait, but then that just increased our churn even more because now people are getting an even worse, right? It's stuff, follows a cycle. So I think people are going to come out of it and then, realize that, that back to basics, customer first approach, like you said, is just, it's going to be what's going to win long term.
Yeah, totally agree. Everything always goes back. No matter what technology comes out, we're in the business of serving people. And if you have that customer first approach, no matter what the new technology trends are, you're probably going to do a lot better than people that just go with the technology first approach.
100%. The balance, like we have a customer right now, a big player in their space, but the space is starting to become a little more commoditized. So it's becoming really hard to compete with competitors over feature and functionality because everyone's sort of building the same stuff at this point.
Yep.
So now how are these big enterprise companies choosing them over a competitor that has parity, with their software?
Yep.
They literally say like, oh, we chose you because of your people. We chose you because we feel like we can trust you. We chose you because we feel like you're going to give us an amazing experience.
Yep.
Even though your software maybe is quite similar to this competitor. So that's a trend that's only going to continue, but it's a simple thing that people forget. It's like you can win with people.
Yep. Always. Well, I know we went a little over today. It's been a great discussion, actually. Fantastic discussion, actually. A lot of great topics and tips covered here. So how can people learn more about your company, aside from it being in our marketplace, of course?
Yep. And the NachoNacho marketplace is awesome. We've been super excited to launch on it and be a partner with you all. So we're very appreciative. Look, I think, not to be cliched, our website, which we toil and spend a lot of time on with the messaging and the offer, Praction, .co. Definitely check us out. Connect with me on LinkedIn. And, we would love to always, make any connection and continue the conversation and see if anything that, you and I talked about today resonated with them. And, we're big believers, even if there's not an immediate engagement opportunity, like rising tides raise all ships. Like, we can figure out ways to help you in any way possible. Like we love those type of conversations.
Nice. Yeah, that sounds really helpful. Yeah, actually, that's in our marketing pitch deck too. A rising tide raises all boats, because as somebody building a marketplace here, we're trying to build a community around it. And if we could do these kind of webinars that we're doing, help tell your guys' story and vice versa. I mean, everybody's getting more awareness for it, and because of that, I think we've done a really good job building, a great marketplace with the best brands at the best prices, right? And if anybody does want to check out your services, definitely go to Praction.co. Or you can visit it in the NachoNacho marketplace. We do have the best brands, like I mentioned. We do have a nice little cashback offer on it, 15%, for anybody that wants to check it out. But definitely go to Praction.co, learn more about their company, love their business model, love the way they do business. Could highly recommend Mason's business here, and go check it out today. Once again, thanks for coming on today, Mason.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Andy.
Likewise.
All right.